Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in for another video. Thought it would be a good time for another update on things. I've had a few things changing. I have some impending renovations coming in upstairs, so the one tank that I've always had outside of the fish room had to be moved. You can see a couple of the loaches from that tank are still continuing to settle in. Definitely some cloudy water you can see from the move, so I'll be talking a little bit about that. I've been making some progress with the newest rack system in the fish room, so I wanted to give a progress report on that. Apart from that, I thought it would be fun to make a video on feeding the pea puffers some live food. So if that all sounds like an interesting watch, then stay tuned. Alright everyone, so this is an example of one of my culture tanks that I use for feeding various fish that may only eat live food. So you can spend, whatever, 10-15 minutes in here with the turkey baster collecting one by one or two by two, or you can do this. Throw a green bean in there, wait for 5 minutes, let them swarm, and then I'm just gonna pluck that out and dunk it real quick in a cup and you'll see how much come out. Okay, and this is from that one dunking of a green bean. So again, you'd be surprised how stubborn these critters are once they're feeding on it. You can literally just reach in there with some tongs, grab them, dunk them in some cups of water, and then I'll put the green bean back in there. Do it 3 or 4 times if you have to, and you'll, double, triple your collection. And to me, that just beats the heck out of trying to get a turkey baster or whatever and catching these things one at a time. So in an effort to show some type of feeding of the live colony of foods, I'm gonna give some food to the to the pea puffers. I don't know how much you'll be able to see because it's all kind of pretty small. But the Pea Puffers, they just go absolutely bananas for any kind of live food, but especially, you know, this is a good one for them that has a lot of nutrients apart from what you see often used for Pea Puffers, which is of the worm variety. Just gonna let you guys hopefully see some hunting in there. Just be quiet for a while. See a couple more. I can't get him to focus on that one. I found that it's really hard to get their feeding response to be triggered with just frozen foods. You can see there's one in the back that just got one too. So while I am still offering them frozen food somewhat regularly, really how I'm getting them to thrive is with scuds. You can see that they really enjoy it. It's a challenge for them. It's not just as easy as eating a worm like a piece of spaghetti. They really do have to, you know, take some time, dedication, work at it. So I think it's just really good for them as a species. So before I bore anybody who's not an absolute puffer fanatic, I'm gonna end it here. Hey everyone. For those of you that are familiar with aquariums, you're probably recognizing the look of a recently moved tank. These are two of my Pea Loaches from a display tank that up to now has lived its life upstairs in our living room. And with renovations in the kitchen being able to be moved forward, thankfully, we decided that having a fish aquarium upstairs didn't make a lot of sense. So, the undertaking has been moving my first ever planted tank, which was this one, a 20-gallon long. And it's the first time I've ever, I'll say, refreshed. I'm in the process of refreshing substrate. And you can kind of see that layering effect here beneath my super chubby loaches. So I just picked a generic sand, and below that was some aqua soil. And this tank's about the majority of the way to 3 years old. And I haven't done anything other than just kind of periodically add root tabs and then liquid fertilizers. So obviously when I moved the tank from upstairs, it meant moving all the inhabitants, taking out all the hardscape. I should say moving as many of the inhabitants as possible, because especially with the shrimp, I mean, I'm not even sure I got all the fish, to be honest with you. I'm really not. You can see they seem to be doing okay. It's testing really well, but adding the sand after the fact, especially, it's taken the water quite a while to clear. So I'm not quite done yet with this tank. I'm kind of waiting for things to settle a little bit. It's only been sitting here for, this is the second day now. Once things settle for another, I don't know, 24 or 48 hours, kind of play it by ear, I still have more sand to add later. I want the substrate to be about this depth throughout the whole tank, and you can see I'm not quite there yet. These coulees are funny because they're usually hidden 24/7, but since the move, I seem to have kind of shook things up for them. The other reason I was eager to move this tank is because going on 3 years old, for the first time ever, I had started to run into some water clarity problems. It didn't seem to be a thing that water changes impacted, and I don't have that issue in any of my other aquariums either. So it was either the added sunlight, just from our living room being, a lot of windows, or maybe the aqua soil being really, really old. I find it hard to believe it was a bacterial bloom happening, just because parameters in the tank tested very stable, and it was a really established, seasoned tank, like I said, going on 3 years old. And just, again, how consistent it was. Usually when I find this a bacterial bloom, it'll bloom for a little while, day or two, and then clear up. And this just kind of remained foggy. So, as you can see, it's still foggy, but I think it has more to do with the new substrate being added. So the loaches were out today. I figured I would take advantage, because you don't often get a look at them. And I'll keep updating this tank as we go. So I'm going to zoom out now, and you'll see the other big change in the fish room if you've been keeping track. I kind of talked about it a little bit coming up to this point, that I wanted to build a 40-gallon breeder size rack. And you can see that I got one. Now, I did some looking around and some considering of cost. Initially, I had thought about building one, but this room is, about 100 square feet. That's how much space I'm working with. And I just didn't think that I could end up making a rack that was, as slimline as buying one that's metal. So this is the exact dimensions of a 40-gallon breeder. You can see this is a 40-gallon breeder aquarium right here in the middle. Long term, the goal will be to have one in the middle, one on top, where the 20-gallon is right now. And then last move, originally the bottom shelf here on this rack to the left, see if I can point it out for you right here. This tank doesn't really work here. I kind of obviously knew it was going to be an issue when I put the tank there, so I set it up to not have to move. It's kind of a space-saving move at the time. Long term, this bottom 20-gallon long needs to move over to this space, which will allow me a lot more head room, enough to work with it long term, and then just use this bottom shelf over here for storage. So with this rack, long term, the goal will be to have two 40-gallon breeders and a 20-gallon long on bottom. We'll be able to call that good. So real quick, I'll point out the new setup up top here. With adding another rack of aquariums, it just became needed to do electric like wiring and my air pump in a more efficient way. So I have, you can see, I'll kind of hold up here, I have one air pump and it is running all the air lines from that one central point to all of the aquariums on these two racks, and I'll have space to expand as I go. Same with electric hookups. I originally had them kind of jerry-rigged along the side here, and so it was much better to get them up high above the aquariums where no water can get to them. So I will say it's not the prettiest thing, but it's much safer and much more organized in terms of being able to get to things if you ever need it. But I think I have it kind of set up to where that's minimal at best. So I would just tell you to take your time planning when you're going through, adding racks and tanks. And definitely I did better, my third and fourth try through versus my first and second time through. So things that people don't think about, you want to make sure that the surfaces are painted, something that's relatively waterproof, so you don't have to worry about moving the tank down the road. The other thing is to make sure that it's leveled, and I also have both of these racks, what would you call it, anchored to the wall into studs. So it's not just as simple as setting the rack up on the floor and then, putting an aquarium up. You gotta take those steps for sure. All right, since the video's already been full of loaches, I figured I'd close with loaches. The last thing that I'll leave you with in this video, which was a bit of a hodgepodge, I'm sure. You're used to it if you've been watching any of my videos before this one. But the last big change that's coming for the fish room is an RODI system. Up until now, I have survived on keeping basically only things that I can manage in my existing tap water. And with where I live, I'm lucky that the quality of the water in terms of pollutants and things is really it's really good quality. But it is really hard water in terms of overall, I guess I would say GH and KH and TDS. So out of the tap, we're looking at, on a good day, 300s, upper 300s sometimes. And up until now, I've kind of made it work with setting up the tanks to combat that and be stable. And the other thing is finding fish and plants that work with the water that I have. But after you get to the point of mastering that, then the next step is RODI, so that you can create a wider range of parameters. And as much as I'm doing this and talking about the fish, where I really am going to see the benefit and the boost is with plants. So up until now, I've been pretty limited to the type of plants that can be grown in a low-tech and non-CO2 hard water. And so Vallisneria grows really well, pearlweed grows really well. I struggle with Anubias, struggle with a lot of stem plants. Stargrass grows really well, guppy grass. My water is very, very good for live bearers in general. But the RODI unit is going to allow me to widen that base, if you will. Here we go. So before I get too long-winded on this, I have the unit coming in end of this month, and I'll talk more about that. I'm hoping to be able to make a couple videos about installing it and how I set things up. So look forward to that stuff coming down the line as well if you're interested. For now, I'll leave you with this yo-yo loach and say thank you for watching. I hope you and your fish are doing well. See you next time.